Welcome to Los Angeles Data Platform. Good time of the day, everyone, whenever you are. By the way, please feel free to drop the city and country into the chat so you know which communities we are serving. Again, welcome to Los Angeles Data Platform User Group. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Steve, and I'll be host and moderator of this virtual meeting. I'll be joined by few members of the team. Well, now that I know who's joined, is going to be just one team member. Don't feel super excited to do social media live stream, so we'll probably skip that today. If you are new to our user group, you can see all of our Eventbrite meetings, and all meetings are online, so you can basically join from wherever without leaving your couch. We also on Meetup, and if you have any comments, suggestions, you can just email us directly at LA-Data-Platform@datadriven-technologies.org. Obviously, on Eventbrite and Meetup, you can see our upcoming meetings, or maybe you can see what you actually miss in terms of past meetings. If you're attending us not for the first time, or if you just want to follow us, here's the whole footprint of all our social media touch points. You can choose whichever you like. We are on both. Since we're recording this meeting, the video is going to be on YouTube and Rumble. You can also join our mailing list. So this way you can not only get reminders on upcoming meetings, notifications on YouTube videos are available. You can also get weekly newsletters that we publishing some interesting topics from other people. We call it weekly links. And you can get those by subscribing to our mailing list, which is either you go to URL that is below the QR code. You can just scan the QR code. And this event is organized by, now, prior to today, this was organized just by Data-Driven Technologies, which is the nonprofit that funds LA Data Platform User Group monthly meetings, as well as SQL Star in Los Angeles. But we have few sponsors from our SQL Star in Los Angeles event, which we actually call now Data SQL Star LA. And those are Microsoft and SolarWinds. So Microsoft, I think everyone knows, it's a public cloud. It's also OS, gaming and stuff. SolarWinds is basically monitoring tools. If you're not familiar with SolarWinds, you're probably familiar with SentryOne, which has a suite of monitoring tools specifically for SQL Server. And at the end of this meeting, we'll be offering a t-shirt. You can scan the QR code now. You can click on the URL. It will take you to your form. You'll fill out the form. And at the end of this meeting, Yelena, that's the team member that joined this meeting now, is going to raffle the t-shirt. And again, we might not have exact color, and we can only ship in US. But it's still a t-shirt. It's still a custom t-shirt where you can choose the size, and it's going to be custom printed with our beautiful logo. And during the presentation, please feel free to drop questions in the chat, or if you can unmute yourself and ask questions as well. And without further ado, let's move to the rock star of today's online meeting, Deepthi Goguri. Deepthi, please take it away and introduce yourself. Did we lose? No. Oh, Deepthi, you need to unmute yourself.
Thank you so much. I was talking.
No problem. No problem.
You need to change my title underneath my name. I'm not an MVP, and I'm not a I'm not a consultant as well. Maybe you put the same thing like the previous speaker. Maybe.
Yeah, that's probably copy paste. But the first name and
Yeah.
last name is correct, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
That's fine. Let me share my
Well,
screen.
maybe this is maybe I was predicting the future. Maybe you're
Oh.
gonna be senior consultant and Microsoft MVP.
Okay, all right. So, do you want me to get started then?
Yep.
Yeah. So, hello everyone. Thank you so much for taking your time for attending this session today. My name is Deepthi Goguri. Today we are going to talk about notebooks, or everything about notebooks. So, if you're not familiar with notebooks, like how to use them, this session will create a basic ground for you to take advantage of SQL notebooks. We are not only talking about the basics, but also we'll go to the another level of like how we can automate the SQL notebooks, how to grab the results by placing the SQL notebooks in SQL agent jobs, how to automate it, and what are the kernels we have and rest of them. It is not only useful for the DBAs but also developers because you can use SQL notebooks as a documentation purposes as well as you can automate these notebooks as well. A little bit about me. I'm a database administrator with 8 years of experience as a DBA. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer and also a Microsoft certified solution expert. I did my master's in computer technology here in United States a couple of years ago, and um, I do blog about SQL Server and I do blog for dbanuggets.com. That's my website. I usually blog about Query Store and Azure fundamental concepts. Like if you would like to know more about it, please visit my website. And if you want to contact me later, DBA Nuggets is my user ID for the Twitter, and down below that's my email address. I'm also very active on LinkedIn. You can search by my name, Deepthi Goguri. You can find me there. So the main reason of why I choose this SQL notebooks as my session is because like it's a general use purpose. Um, couple of like 1 year ago, I joined in a new company um, where like we receive emails every now and then, the audit request. We receive the audit request every now and then. In my previous company, we used to get like every couple of months one request. So that is the reason like why I didn't even think about notebooks because I used to we used to have the documentation in the Word document format, and then we have files somewhere in the drive where I used to grab them and then execute and send it over. But the thing is, with my in my new company, we receive it very frequently. It got so overwhelmed for me to grab the queries on the from the drive and then read the documentation from the Microsoft Doc and then open up in the management studio, execute those results. And also the requester have certain requirements. Once I execute the code in Management Studio, they want the screenshot of the results along with the calendar. Like I need to open the calendar from the top bottom right corner of the screen, and I also need to show them the time that I executed the code so that to make sure like I'm not changing any results. So they need a screenshot as well as they want the results to be sent in an Excel document, and then they want to know the code that I executed. So I need to create an entirely new Word document, and I need to mention like, hey, for this particular database, for these results, I executed this code. These are the results, and this is the screenshot I took. And then to grab the results, I used to have the Excel sheet. So it is a multi document thing for a single request. It became so tedious because uh, they need the they need the results for multiple databases on multiple servers. So that's when I thought like I came to know about SQL notebooks. So basically what SQL notebooks does is like um, you do not have to have multiple documents. You can place everything in a single notebook. So you have these code cells and text cells. Text cells is nothing but similar to your Word documents. You can just go ahead and type whatever you want as a documentation, and then that you can place it in the text cell, but you have a separate one as a code cell where you can place your code. And not only the placing the code, but also you can execute the code within the SQL notebook itself. So once you execute the code, you will see the results in the same notebook only. So you don't have to see it you don't have to connect to the management studio. You'll see it in the same notebook itself. You can save those results. Like once you execute it, those results won't go away. So you can actually execute it and then share that SQL notebook along with the executable results with your colleagues, with your colleagues, or if you want to share it outside of your organization, you can just upload those notebooks to the GitHub. GitHub, you can create a free account there. You can make it private. You can only share with few people, or you can share with the public as well. I felt like very interesting, and I thought it will be really helpful if we can share this information with the other developers and DBAs so they can take advantage of SQL notebooks as well. So apart from the documentation, these notebooks will avoid like copying, pasting, and all of those tedious tasks. And because of the documentation, right, you can place multiple SQL notebooks into a single node into a single Jupyter notebook. So Jupyter notebook is nothing but the collection of the SQL notebooks. So you can write your documentation like troubleshooting documentation. You can grab it and then you can place it under a single Jupyter notebook and then share that Jupyter notebook with your colleagues. So for example, you have another DBA, other DBA joined the company, and he need to get all the knowledge transfer, right? So instead of you sitting with him and then explaining the location of the files and everything, you can simply share that Jupyter notebook to him so that he can go through all the documentation. So as an overview, we are going to see what are Jupyter notebooks, mainly concentrating on the SQL notebooks. We are going to see what is a markdown text and how you can use it, and how the SQL notebooks are beneficial and usage scenarios, and also what are a couple of the limitations we have with SQL notebooks. So the first thing that you need to have is a Azure Data Studio. It's a free open source tool where you can connect to multiple sources like SQL Server, on-prem Azure. You can connect and you can run your queries. So by having the Azure Data Studio, you will be also having you can also create SQL notebook. So you need to download that by from the Microsoft website. So just type like Azure Data Studio, Microsoft, you'll get the first link to download. So once you download, that's when you can create your notebooks. So we have gone through in the introductory slide itself, like what is a notebook? We have code cells, we have text cells, and you can execute the code within the SQL notebook. It is useful for the documentation, like I said. And also the other advantage is like you can add pictures to your SQL notebooks within the documentation part. You can add GIFs, images, and also your results can be shown in the table format, as well as it can be also shown in the tabular like graphical view. So um, if you want to show the results to the business people who are not familiar with the SQL code, they can easily predict the flow of the data by viewing the viewing the results in the visualization format, like by the tabular view. It is very helpful for doing the analysis, um, if you are doing certain analysis to describe certain scenarios, um, you can for the analysis purposes you can use the SQL notebooks. The one thing, the shortcut that you have to know while using the SQL notebook is Control Shift P. It is basically like search, like when you do Control Shift P, like it will open up a new SQL notebook where it will ask you like, do you want to create a SQL notebook, new SQL notebook? We are going to see that in our demo. So without further ado, let's see the demo. So once you download the Azure Data Studio, down below the taskbar, you see this icon over here. Right click and go open the Azure Data Studio. So once you open up the Azure Data Studio, you see this um, new drop down menu. If you see, you can actually let me see. You can make the new connection to the SQL Server or Azure Data or Azure database, or you can create a new query connecting to the connection, create the new notebook. So we are going to talk about the notebook. So click on the create notebook. So that will actually open up a new notebook. We close this. So here, you see the cell. So once you drop down that, you see two things like code cell as well as text cell. And here you see run all. So you can manually run each code cell at a time, or you can run all of them at the same time. So instead of me clicking here, like text cell and then typing here, it will take time, right? So I already created a notebook readily made. So let me open that to show you like how it will actually work. So once I click on this, like I already created this SQL notebook, right? So once I double click on it, it will open up the editable format. Like you can edit it now. You can actually highlight the text after typing, right? This is uh, this is notebook, maybe meeting. So you can highlight it, you can underline it. If you can make it as a bold, you can make it as italic, right? And then if you want to change the format, like paragraph, if you click here, you can make it as a heading, you can make it as a heading two. The size changes if you observe the differences. On just make it as a paragraph, but I want to make it as a heading again, and then I want to highlight. Yeah, highlight. So you can do all of the things that you can do with the Word documentation. But then if you see here, right side top corner, you see this button, like rich text view is just like whatever you write is what you see here. But the next one is a split view. If you click on this one, it will actually show you the actual message, like whatever you are writing, you will see. But but here is like markdown text. If you know the markdown text, then it will be familiar. I'm not much familiar with markdown text. So that is the reason it is very easy for you to actually write see what you write here. If you already know markdown text, then like, it is easy for you, you can do it. But I'm not so familiar, so I'll be using this rich text view, just like a Word documentation. It's direct. It's direct. You can write it direct. And then here you have the markdown view, which will only show you the markdown text, right? But I'm so familiar with just the casual one, so I'll be using this one for today. And then if you see, I have attached a picture over here. And specifically, why did I attach all in one book? So I am from India. Basically, I'm from South India, south part of India. So we used to have like all in one books in our schools, like primary, secondary, middle, and high school. So basically, this all-in-one book used to contain all of the subjects, like um, like the languages. Hindi is a national language, English, mathematics, science, social studies. So all of these subjects combinedly together, we used to have a book. So if you study that book for your exams, you are done. You will be passing the exam because all the chapters together, all the subjects together, used to carry only one book to the school during the examinations. So why I put place this all-in-one book is like, if you see all-in-one book as a Jupyter notebook, the subjects that contains like English, Hindi, mathematics, these are like the kernels. These are like the subjects, right? The subjects you can use. So creating the notebook with each of these subjects, like English is a notebook, Hindi notebook, mathematics and different notebook, but these are different languages, right? Different kernels. You are not mixing and matching in between one notebook. You are separating it out in a different notebook, and combinedly by adding all of this notebook together, you are placing underneath the all-in-one Jupyter notebook. So it's a collection of different notebooks having different languages. So if you see the kernels over here, kernels are nothing but the languages that you can use to create the notebooks. So you have SQL, Spark, Python, PowerShell. So the thing is, in a single notebook, you can mix and match the code like SQL in one code cell as well as the Python in a different code cell. But the thing is, if you execute run all, once you want to run it all, you can run it separately, one cell at a time. But if you run it all, then the problem that you have is the first cell. If it is a SQL code, then it will run fine. But when it hits the second code cell with the PowerShell, it will fail because it won't happen automatically. You need to manually go ahead and change it. So that is the reason it is always such like you can think it is a limitation. Um, Try to create a different SQL notebook um, with a different uh, kernel. Do not mix and match because when you want to automate it or when you want to run it all, it will fail. So that's why I added here. And then see, for example, I have created a very simple select top 10 star from the sys databases, which is connecting to the master database. So you might be thinking, okay, this is nowhere related to SQL Server. How can we connect to the SQL Server, right? So we have this select connection over here on the top, if you see. So change the connection, and I have already connected. It is showing in the green dot. That means I am already connected. But let me show, like, click on that, and then all the details are shown here. It is a Microsoft SQL Server, right? And then server is local server, Windows authentication, and I would like to connect to the master database. And if you want to create a SQL server group, it is nothing but just giving the name for the group of servers just to categorize, and it doesn't do any action by itself. It's just a name, and then you can name the server group. But I just want to connect to the server. So right now I'm connected and it is showing it in the green button, and rest all the connections are showing it in the red button because I'm not connected to them. Okay. Now I would like to run just this cell. So how to run it? Just click on this button and you will see the results. So these are the databases that I have with the status and then all of them, basic information. So if you see here, this is a table format, right? And the second one shows as Excel. You can save directly from here to Excel sheet. You can save it as a JSON. If you hover your mouse over here, you can save it as an Excel XML. And then the last one here is a show chart. So if you click on that, one of the advantages with SQL notebooks is like you can visualize it in the graphical view format. So if you want to do some like presentations with the business users who do not have any knowledge of these code and everything like SQL code, you can directly um, instead of showing them in the table, the results in the table, you can show it in the graphical view format to see the flow of the data. So if you want to go back to the table, click on the last option again, show table. That will show you. So here you saw the results, right? So that means like you executed and you see the results. Now you can directly go ahead and share this SQL document, right? I will show you later down the session, like how to actually upload this notebook along with the results into the GitHub. I will show you that. But for now, just think like now I can share this document with the results with the other developers and DBAs. You can email them, right? You can email this IPYNB file because notebooks are always in this extension IPYNB, right? You can save and do that. But then, like for example, you do not want to share the results, right? You the results are sensitive. You just want to share the code and not the results. So how do I do that? I already executed it here, right? You can directly go ahead and collapse and clear out the results here. If you observe top right corner here, the first one is collapse cells. So for example, here, if you see select star, select top 10, right? Once I hit the collapse cells, you'll only see the first line. and you can expand it again to see the two lines. So if you have a long code like store procedure, if you want to collapse, then use the collapse cells. The second one is clear results. It will totally clear out the results. Now once I click here, it will clear out the results, and once you execute it again, it will produce the results. So I want to collapse the results, clear out the results. And here if you see the other option, this is like the third one is like trusted. Do not worry much about it, just like you are trusting this notebook or something like that. I'm not much familiar on that option. But then if you see this last option, um, last second option, run with parameters. So basically the limitation that you have with the SQL notebook, with the SQL kernel, is that you cannot parameterize these notebook with the SQL, but then you can parameterize the SQL notebooks with with the other kernels like Spark, Python, PowerShell. With all of these other ones, you can parameterize and you can automate that. You can put the SQL notebook in the agent job and you can automate it, and you can use the parameter values. I'm going to show you a example after a couple of minutes by using the Python, like how you can parameterize it. And then the last option you have here is top right corner. You can actually export this notebook as a SQL. So you have this SQL notebook, right? But you want to convert that into .SQL file with a single click, right? Once you click on it, it will directly convert into the .SQL file. Do not worry, the previous one is already existing here in a different window, but then it created a new window over here. And then now you can directly copy this one, open into the management studio, and you can execute there. Or you can directly run it from here, connecting to the database. You can connect it from here and then you can run it. Now let me close this one. Like I said, the advantages, some of the advantages are like you can share these notebook with the results along with the results to the other colleagues. If you want to collapse the results, only share the code, you can do it. Um, and the other advantage that you can have is, for example, you want to delete certain data into your notebooks from your tables, let's say. By executing the results before deleting the data and saving that results in your notebook will actually help you uh, to see the results how they used to look like before deleting the data. So first you will select the data, save it in the SQL notebook, and then you will go ahead and delete the data, and also get those results like how many records were updated and how many records were deleted. And then because you have that report as an executable, you can share those results with your manager. Like let's say like they wanted to know what you did, what you deleted and everything, right? In those scenarios, you can make sure like you select the data before deleting the amount of data that you wanted to delete, get that row count, right? Get that number of row count, and then delete, and then in the executable, it will show you like how many records were updated. So that way your results are saved and you can share with your manager. That way you will make sure you did not do anything wrong or you did not make any mistakes, right? And also these SQL notebooks can also be very useful for the code reviews. Let's say like uh, let's say your company have multiple locations and you are in a different location and the other DBAs are in a different location where you are very confused of a code. You are having some trouble with the code that you are trying to run. So instead of like sharing the .sql file, you can just share the SQL notebook and explain what you're trying to do, and then you can share for the code review. Actually, they can make the changes in the same notebook. They can explain what they make the change. They can execute it and show you the results. And so you can run it on your local machine, on your local server, like connecting to the server as you, and you can compare the results, like the code that has changed by executing, maybe you can see the results correctly. So it is very useful for the code reviews. And personally, I use the SQL notebooks for auditing purposes mainly, um, and also for my demo purposes. So instead of creating the presentation like PPT presentation, I can directly use the SQL notebooks as my presentation. For my demos, I can put all the code for my demos into a Jupyter notebook and then run each notebook for my demos. All the demo files, I can place it as a notebooks for a Jupyter notebook, and then I can execute. That way, everything is clear under a single Jupyter notebook. I can just I can just save that Jupyter notebook and then import it, and that's when I'm done. I do not have to go to Management Studio to show the demos. I can show the demos right here inside the Azure Data Studio. So let me show you the other one. So I did couple of analysis. Like when I prepared this presentation, I thought of like how can we do the data analysis by using the SQL notebooks. So let's say COVID-19 has hit a couple of years ago, and then I thought of like why can't I use the COVID data and then predict like how many people are getting how many people got affected, um, and how the vaccination has actually helped um, helped and saved lives. So instead of requesting and sharing this information with the colleagues and asking them to take the vaccination, forcing them to take the vaccination, I do not want to force anybody. I just want to provide the analysis along with the results so that they can make the decision of their own choice. So just replace the COVID with any of your analysis. You can use a SQL notebook to do the analysis to show the results, like what is the trend in the data, and how your product will be useful to your clients, and you can use the SQL notebooks for that. So let's see as an example how this COVID data has actually predicted and helped the employees to take the vaccinations. So what I did was I used this GitHub repo to grab the live data, live COVID data. I did not make any changes to the data itself. I imported as is. So when I open this GitHub repo, there are these Excel files, the live Excel files with the data, live data that that they are grabbing every single day from the hospitals and everywhere. So I imported that into the SQL server. If you see here, my databases, COVID databases. So what I did was like I imported those Excel files into the tables very easy, but I had couple of issues while importing because there is like duplicate data, and um, raw data has couple of issues. So I need to clean those up. But finally, I was able to import the data into the COVID database, right? So I will be using these tables to do my analysis. Okay, so let me close this one. So first I mentioned all my citations here, right? And then what is a COVID-19? And then I have added a GIF, we can add the GIF, and then I showed what are the membranes of the COVID, we can add the pictures, right? And then I connected to the SQL database. Here again, it's a local database, and I was connected to the COVID database. So now I will just show you the results. I don't want to run this code now because I cleaned up a couple of records later down this SQL notebook. If I run, the results might be differing. So what I did was like, just like I said a couple of minutes ago, if you want to clean up the data, just select the data first, and then go ahead and clean up the data so that you will have the record of what the data used to look like. So that is the reason I'm not running anything, because I cleaned up a couple of data later down the notebook. So here we are grabbing the top 10 countries with the most COVID cases. So I'm grabbing the results. It's just a retrieving the data from a couple of tables here. I'm using the COVID data. So once I see the results, like it will show you how many records, right? And then what is the execution time, how much it took. And then if you see the results, I am seeing it in the graphical view. Like if you want to see the table view, the boring table view, you can see, but I would like to see it in the graphical view format. It gives um like colors and everything. You can easily see the impact the COVID has made. So These are the top 10 countries. If you see, the first country is like Africa. Africa is having many cases, and the next one is Argentina. And these are the other countries. If you hover your mouse, you can see it. Based upon the continent, I have grabbed the information like what are the COVID, what are the total vaccinations. Like I'm grabbing the columns here, right? The total vaccination. So here you are seeing the columns that we are grabbing. So these are the total vaccination based upon the continent. Like if you see the total number of vaccinations, maximum number of vaccinations available are in the Asia, and these are the people who are got partially vaccinated. If you see the total vaccination available and the people who got vaccinated, it's half of them, right? Um, and then you can see the people who got fully vaccinated, that means dose one and dose two, booster shot, they are fully vaccinated. But then what is the population? If you see the trend, like vaccinations are more than the population. And then you can see like how many people got, like half of the population got fully vaccinated, which is good, right? But then there are a couple more people who need to get more shots. And then I analyzed the data, especially in the United States. So I grabbed all the data. I know this looks overwhelming. Now, this is just an example to show you, like, if you want to grab like millions of records, like retrieving millions of record in your notebook, please be aware that it might block the notebook itself. Like, because notebooks are like elite where you can just grab like couple of thousands or of records and something, but if you want to grab like huge amount of data, it will get stuck. It's stuck for me, it's stuck for many other people over there, but just keep it in mind. So if you see this, this looks overwhelming, but if I see in the table format, right, I need to, this is all the data. But if you want to see in the graphical view, all the other the rest of the graphs are so little because this is high. So if you see the total number of vaccinations, and this contains all the states from the United States. And then especially I wanted to check for the California state. If you see the California state, the unvaccinated cases, these are the unvaccinated cases, and the vaccinated cases like ending up in the hospital. If you see the difference. Again, in the state of California, a little bit more detailed if you go. So, unvaccinated ending up in the hospital, these are the count. If you see the graph, right? You do not have to see the result, just look at the graph and see like what is the impact. Vaccinated ending up in the hospital, right? Unvaccinated deaths, unvaccinated deaths. If you see the difference, it says it all how the vaccination has actually impacted, how it has helped. So what manufacturers are doing better, right? Better than the others. So if you see the name of the manufacturers, the Pfizer is on the top, and then the rest of them follows, like Moderna and then AstraZeneca and the others. And then there were a couple of interviews that happened in United States. So the interviews were done in uh, different states in the counties, asking them like um, whether they are willing to put the mask when they are in 8 feet distance outside of the house. So there are like top 10 county names where they always want to wear a mask, right? These are the good counties. Again, I did not make any changes to the data. This is the raw data that I grabbed, right? So these are the ones. If you hover your mouse, you can see the state name and as well as the county name. They always wanted to wear a mask. But then the other side of the coin, they they said never. They don't want to wear a mask whatsoever. So these are the guys, right? These are the top 10 counties which do not want to wear a mask. And then I just placed the GIF. If you do not know how to wear a mask, this is the way I just added it. And then one of the other advantages, like I said, notebooks are really helpful when you wanted to clean up the data. So before cleaning up the data, I said like just grab the data to see like what you want to clean up, right? So I grabbed the top 20 counties, uh, 20 locations basically, the um, 20, 20 continents where like Asia and then other countries over here, if you see. Um, so when I grab the data regarding the total cases and total cases versus total deaths, I saw a little bit weird information here in the raw data that I grabbed from the GitHub. So if you hover your mouse over here, it says like high income, upper middle income, and low income, along with the other countries. Like I really didn't understand why they have to add the financial status in this particular data. And I do not want my analysis to have the financial data related to lives, because life is a life. We do not want to link that up with the financial situations of the people. So I just want to remove all of this from my analysis. So before deleting, I just selected, right? And then as a DBA, I need to make sure like I have a backup copy. So I selected all the data that I wanted to delete in this particular categories: high income, middle income, low income. And then I would like to um, place that into a different table. So I just selected and pasted into a different table. And then now I'll know like how many records were updated: 2175 records. Now I'll go ahead and delete the data, right, from all of these categories. 2175 rows affected. Now if I run this data again, right, I will see like zero result because it is already executed. So this is like a documentation, right? Whatever I did. Now, if my manager comes and says like, hey, what did you do? How many records did you delete? This document clearly shows like how many records were affected, right? And then I want to make sure like I select it again to see if there is any more data present, because I deleted and there is no data, if you see, right? Zero rows affected. So basically, you can also use for the data cleansing purposes. So what are the observations? From this data analysis, it clearly shows like from the data trend, you see, you did not see the data in the table format, but you saw it in the graphical view format. And people who do not know anything about SQL can also know the impact of how the vaccination has affected the lives for the better, right? So I just grab like what all are my observations, and I made sure like if you take the vaccination, it is really helpful for you. You can just go ahead and see the analysis and decide that for yourself. So basically, you can for the data, not only for the data scientists who do the data analysis, but also these kind of analysis, you can implement that in your scenarios, in your company, to describe like how the data trends look like, not only for the DBAs but also for the developers. So this is just an example of the analysis, but let's go something which is like a real time scenario where I used. So this is one of the example. Let's say we are doing an auditing report, right? Before we used to have like Microsoft Docs and everything, .SQL file, but now I wanted to place everything in the same notebook. So I have written like server role membership. These are the general requests that we receive, right? What are the roles that we have? If you see, I executed these roles, and what are the orphan user list for the databases, and then grab the results and database level information. What are the databases? What are the recovery models? What is a compatibility model? Give us the state of each of the database, and also give us the login server role permissions from the server, right? The database users, orphan users list. These are the regular general requests that we receive usually. So I have placed this one, right? So now let's say like we want to make sure like we automate this actually. So uh, I took a different example, not this particular notebook, but a different one. Let me open that one. So let's say I want to use a very simple notebook with just a simple query to automate it, right? So all I'm doing is using the COVID database and selecting star from vaccination where location is United States. Now let's say I want to collapse this one. I want to clear out these results and I want to place this one in the agent job. Right now, how do you do that? Uh, Open the server. So these are the servers, right? Now we are connecting to the local machine, a local database, but then we want to connect to the COVID database because this is using COVID database. So once I click on that, it automatically connected. It refreshed the connection. So if you see the green button over here, it has refreshed. So now what you'll do is right click on that and go to manage. Once you go to manage here, right, you're seeing what all the tables that you have in the database. And then you see the new notebook, a backup, restore, refresh option here. But then I would like to go to the local server level over here. If you see this is a COVID database, I want to go a little bit backwards to the local server. So this will show the entire information about the server, like what are the databases that you have. I did not created this view over here. It is by automated. It will show you the databases sizes, what are the backup status. And if you see something here, you see the SQL agent. So when you download the Azure Data Studio, you will not have the SQL agent extension. Now, what you have to do to download this one is go to the extensions here. This is the um so so if you see this icon here, it shows us extensions. So once you click on that one, you can go ahead and type the SQL Server agent. It's already there, but if you type the SQL Server agent, it can download the SQL Server agent for you, but also there is something known as admin pack for SQL Server. It will include multiple things. Like if you click on that admin pack, what all it contains? It contains SQL Server agent, SQL profilers, SQL Server import, and SQL Server DAC pack. So all you have to do is install. I already installed it, so that is the reason it is showing me uninstall. Click on that one and then go and see it in the server node. Right click the database again. Here it's already open here. Let me close this one. So you will see the SQL agent once you download that. So go to the SQL agent, right? I already created the um, agent jobs uh, to automatically run that particular SQL notebook here. Here we are seeing, right? So I will not show you step by step how to create this one because Thayo Bali, he's an MVP. He have given a wonderful presentation, like around like 11-minute presentation for the data exposed, um, where it is from Microsoft. Like Anna Hoffman will handle the data exposed videos. So Thayo Bali has actually shown like how you can actually create the SQL agent job. So I don't want to show it here. I will just provide you the link so that you can go ahead and see. So what I did was I used that video, I learned from it, and I created a agent job. Let's say this is the audit report, right? So I already created it. So if you see here, it already executed couple of times here. So if I want to see the results, right? Go to the notebooks over here. Uh, if you click on that one, let's say like this is a notebook for the agent job. This is the agent job. I can see this particular job from here, or I can see the job um, from the agent, from the management studio as well. So if you see here, notebook for agent job, for example, we are taking this one. We can create the agent job over there. Like you can create it from there, or you can create it from the management studio. So basically, what you can do is like you can't schedule it from from the Azure Data Studio. You have to schedule it from here if you want to schedule. But then if you want to change, right? Somebody has actually unmuted. Can you please mute yourself because other people can't hear it? Thank you. So the basically you have to schedule it from here. And if you make any changes by going into the edit button, right? And if you make any changes here, like changing the name of the job or anything, it will automatically be updated in the management studio as well. So once I clicked on the notebooks, it has provided the results here. So it actually executed a SQL notebook with the code, but then the results will have the results are produced in the form of a SQL notebook, but with the results. So let's see the latest one. Let's see this one. Once I double click on that, I don't know why. Let me close this one. Where are this? Let me close this one. Hmm, see. So those are the results. So all we placed is just this query, but then it produced the results. Now you can go to another level where you can go ahead and actually, if you see here, um, if you go to the jobs and edit the job here, right? Inside the job, if you go to the alerts, right? You can set up the alerts, you can set up the notifications, you can email like causing the alerts, and you can also go to another level, like you can also send the email, but then I don't want to cover that here. Like I said, Thayavali video will be beneficial if you go ahead and look into that. So you can automate as well. And two more things that I would like to show you here is if you go to the notebooks here by clicking here, by clicking on the notebooks, this is a Jupyter notebook. So underneath the notebooks, if you go here and see, it will ask you to open a Jupyter notebook. So once if you have the Jupyter notebook downloaded from anywhere, like for example, there are like a couple of Jupyter notebooks where community members has actually uploaded it to GitHub, like for the performance tuning scenarios, where they place different notebooks into a single Jupyter notebook, and they provided it for free in GitHub repo. You can actually download that, and then you can actually open those Jupyter notebook from here, show the location, and once you select the Jupyter notebook, it will be opening like this. So this is just a Jupyter notebook that I created for my presentation on Query Store. So what I did was, like, if you click on this notebook, all I have is a text cell. There is no code cell here, right? So the table of contents, this is my first slide, let's say. I don't have to prepare the PPT. The second one, what is a query store? What is query store, right? Let me close this one, and this one contents, and then see the benefits. Again, this is just a text cell. And now how to force and unforce the plans. This is regarding the query store. But then if you see, I have the code here. So what I did was, like, I just copied my .sql file and I placed it in the notebook. But if you observe here, the entire notebook is a single cell. Because I do not have patience, I just want to show you in the demo, just to show how you can create the Jupyter notebook, like how you can uh, combine the notebooks and then show it as a Jupyter notebook. I was so impatient, so I did not use every single code as a different cell, but you can go ahead and manually do that. um, or I can't run this at the same time because there is a lot of code in it. I mean, each different components are in it. So I just want to show you, you can just copy this one and create a entirely new code cell, and then place that in the code cell, so that you can just run that particular code cell and go to the next one. But if you observe here, everything is .sql, everything is SQL kernel, right? Okay, then these are the other SQL notebooks. Like I said, all the code and everything. So let me close this one. There is one more example that I would like to show. The not the PowerShell, like parameter value for the Python. So this is an example of to show you like how you can actually parameterize, because we can't parameterize the values with the .sql, like the SQL notebook, but you can do with the other languages. So for example, let's say I have created a parameter a is equal to 1 and b is equal to b is equal to 3. I'm not much familiar with Python. To be very sincere, I have no idea about Python. So I grabbed a couple of examples here and there, and then I'm just showing like how we can parameterize. So let's say I have actually said like a is equal to 1 and b is equal to 3. Now I want to change those values, right? I want to parameterize it. Now, how do you actually parameterize that particular code cell? This is a code cell, okay? Not a text cell. It's a code cell. By hitting the ellipse button here, click on that, and then you can actually you have a value here, make parameterized cell. So once you click on that, right, you will get this blue icon here. I already clicked on it previously, so that is the reason it showed here. But then if you want to run it, right, you have to click on this one, run with parameters. So the moment you run with parameters, it will open up a this option window here to provide the value of your parameters. So let's say here we mentioned a is equal to 1, but I want to mention it as 3 and hit enter, and it is asking for the b value. So let's say I want to click on 4 and then hit enter, right? So once I hit enter, it will open up this injected parameters code cell. Do not worry about all of these rest of the code cell because I previously executed and it has actually each time I execute, it will produce a entirely new cell of requesting like, are these the values that you wanted to inject? Then once I am sure that I wanted to inject these parameters, click on run cell. So once it executes, right, it will produce the results. I don't know why it's not running. Let me. I'm running the cell, but what happened? It should actually. Okay, so I have injected the parameters, right? So I have to run this code, like I have to do the multiplication over here. So this is the actual operation that I am doing here. So I need to run this one to actually use that parameters and then produce the result. So it took the value 3 times 4 and it produced the result 12. So that is how you can actually parameterize the Python. Um, you can parameterize by using the SQL notebook. That is one of the example I would like to show you. And the other one, the last one that I would like to show you is like how you can actually upload um, this one. Let me open up my. So this is my GitHub repo. So once you go to the repositories, right, you can create a new repository. Let's say test, and I'm providing the date, today date, and then I would like to create a repository. Hit on create. It will create a repository, and then I can go ahead and upload the file over here. So to upload the file, um, you can actually hit on here. You can actually create a new file or upload an existing file. So hit on upload existing file, right? You can choose the files, but before choosing the file, let me go to the notebook, right? Let me take one of the notebook here. For example, we wanted to take this one. To save this file, click on file and then click on save as, right? Just like the way you save. Desktop, I want to hit on the desktop. So let's say I want to update this one. Like I would like to replace this one and hit on save. Says, do you want to replace? Yes. So now it has actually saved it. But then if you see here, it has actually shown in the JSON format. So what I did was like, um, I did not choose the right extension. That is a problem. So let me show you how we can actually save it in IPYNB file. Let me close this. And once again, let me, for example, I would like to save this one, right? Go to file, save as, um, desktop, and then I would like to replace this one. Let's say here the extension save as type JSON. Do not choose the JSON, but then click on notebook, which will automatically click the IP by NB format, right? And then hit on save. It will ask to replace. Yes. I think it will be saving in the, I don't know why it showed still the JSON format. I choose the notebook, but then let me see. So let's say that is actually saved. Let's say it's saved because you need to choose the extension as notebook. That's when it will save it as IPYNB file. Now let's see it has actually saved. Choose the files, and I would like to see the date. So this is the one. Now if you see here, audit report today, we did it at 11:01 p.m. It has actually saved it in IPYNB file. So this is the one we want to see, not the JSON format. So make sure like you, whenever you are saving, it will automatically save in JSON, and you need to change that to notebook to save it in IPYNB file. So click on that, open. So you have uploaded it, right? Commit the changes. So right now, that particular file has been uploaded. Now, let's say you need to just provide this link to any of your colleagues. If you want to make it private, you can make it private. I would like to make it public because it's not a big deal. It's a normal code. So all you need to do is share this location. They can go directly. And if they have Azure Data Studio installed on their computer, all they have to do is go to the code and download the zip file. So no matter how many files you uploaded, they can just download the zip file. So the zip file is being downloaded, right? Once it is downloaded, open that up and and here is your IPYNB file. And if you have Azure Data Studio downloaded, if they have the Azure Data Studio downloaded on their computer, all they have to do is double click. It will automatically open that up along with the results. Did you see this? We have saved the results and then we have uploaded. Now, if they want to collapse, they can definitely collapse the results, but this is how you can actually share those notebooks with other people. You can also email them, email the IPYNB files as is to the email address. If they have Azure Data Studio, they can definitely directly open it from the email address and they can start using um, from the Azure Data Studio. So let me go back to my slides. Um, so like I said, these are the kernels, different kernels we have. Benefits are like the visualization, like I showed you, data cleansing purposes. Before data cleansing, grab the results um, and save the results. And then after cleansing, you can know how many records have been updated. That will be also saved in the executable. You can share that with your managers if they want to see what you did. Data transformation, like I said, you can change the data, transform the data, and you can automate the SQL notebooks and also parameterize the notebooks. We have seen an example of a Python notebook. The limitations, like I said, remember the limitations are like if you want to grab the results, a huge amount of data, then it might stuck your Azure Data Studio. It's not a good idea. It's not a good idea to mix and match the kernels. Try to keep it separate unless you decide to change the kernel manually and execute the single code, each code at a single time, which is not recommended and not useful. So try to create an entirely different Python, SQL in a different SQL notebooks and grab all of them under a single Jupyter notebook if you want to collect them in a single file kind of thing. You can place them as a Jupyter notebook. Those are the limitations, couple of limitations. And the other thing is like y- someone asked me like a day ago if they wanted to if they can connect to multiple servers in a single notebook. No, you can't do that because you have to manually go ahead and change the connection in the SQL notebook. So you can't connect to the multiple connections until you manually go ahead and change it. Like you can't automate that. And the references are, these are the references. Like I said, like the first one, Managing SQL Server Agent Jobs with SQL Notebooks by Thayo Bali. It's a wonderful video. It is like around like 12-minute video, but you will know how to take the advantage of agent jobs to automate your notebooks. And these are the other documentation that I follow to prepare my presentation. And mm, there is this long video from Julie from Microsoft. So she has actually explained in a different an additional like advanced level of SQL notebooks, like how you can actually use this as a response to some other activity, how you can actually trigger the SQL notebooks if something else happened, automatically trigger the notebook and then run the SQL notebook. Um, it's like in an emergency situations when something is down, then just automatically go ahead and fix it by running this particular like a specific notebook. So she'll be explaining uh, the other kernels like Spark, Python, and how to automate these notebooks as a response to other situations. Please go ahead and watch the video. And I would like to thank you, Steve, for giving me this nice opportunity to present a topic on notebooks.
No problem, anytime. Thank you for the presentation. That was great.
And if you would like to contact me, at DBA Nuggets is my um, user ID for the Twitter. You can know like upcoming sessions. I generally post there, like what are my upcoming sessions, and if I do any blog posts, uh, I do share them in the Twitter as well as on LinkedIn.
Thank you everyone for joining our online meeting today. With that, thank you. Have a great day and hear you next time.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you, Deepthi.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Steve.
bye.
Have a good day.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.